Something almost everyone believes is this: you don't use something until you are ready. You prepare first, you understand first, you practice in private, and only when you feel confident you step out and use it. That sounds responsible, mature, even wise, but pause for a moment. What if that belief is exactly what prevents ability from ever forming? Think about how we usually explain failure. If you freeze, you just weren't prepared enough. If you hesitate, you need more practice. If you can't use it in real life, you need clearer explanation. That logic feels airtight, and yet the more you study, the more rules you know, the more explanations you hear, the less confident you seem when real use is required. If this sounds abstract, look at language. Take second languages. Beginners sometimes speak boldly, clumsily, incorrectly. Advanced learners hesitate. They know more, but they speak less. We usually answer this by blaming teaching quality. The explanation wasn't clear enough. We need better methods. We need more structure. More than the doubts, trust explanations deeply. If something doesn't work, we assume it wasn't explained well enough. But let's be honest. When it comes to ability, explanations is useless. You can explain phenomena, you can explain knowledge, but ability doesn't survive explanation. If explanations created ability, no one would fail to swim. Can you swim? Did you command swimming through explanations given by others? Or speak a second language? And yet we accept something far stranger. The only time language acquisition succeeds universally is the only time explanations are absent. You already know what that is. Your first language. There's another pattern that quietly unsettles people. Some of the best explainers are surprisingly bad performers. In China, there are many English teachers who can explain grammar with perfect clarity. They can break every rule down. They can make everything sound logical and complete. And they can help students get very high scores, even perfect scores on exams. But when it comes to actually using English, not just the students, even those grammar teachers themselves often can't communicate with English speakers. They can't follow real conversations. They can't watch English films without relying entirely on Chinese subtitles. Grammar was mastered, understanding was explained, but ability never formed. And the strongest performers often can't explain what they do, usually have the least to say about how. As a Chinese speaker, I have to admit something. I can't really explain Chinese grammar very well. Please forgive me. In fact, I can often explain English grammar more clearly than I can explain my own native language. And if English is your native language, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You have this feeling that you can't quite explain English grammar either. At the very least, your explicit knowledge of English grammar is almost certainly weaker than that of most Chinese students who studied it formally. And yet you can use English fluently, effortlessly, without thinking about rules. That gap is the difference between explanation and ability. So the strongest performers often can't explain what they do, usually have the least to say about how, not because they lack understanding, but because that's exactly why ability can never be taught. This is something I will return to in depth in later videos. Notice one final contrast. Children are allowed to be wrong constantly. Oh, hang on. Except in China. In China, children are trained very early not to be wrong. Mistakes are corrected early, publicly, repeatedly, and then something interesting happens. This doesn't stay in childhood, it scales. Adults are trained to avoid mistakes at all costs, not just in China, everywhere, across education, across work, across language learning. By the time we are grown, being wrong no longer feels like learning. Being wrong is danger. It feels like danger. And that's when ability stops forming. One uncomfortable conclusion here. What we call preparation might actually be protection. Protection from uncertainty, protection from confusion, protection from not knowing. And that protection feels safe. But what if safety is exactly what keeps ability from forming? We are being protected into fragility. sheltered by explanations, buffered from consequences, like plants raised in a greenhouse, perfect conditions, zero resistance, or like children whose lives are fully managed by adults. Every problem pre-solved, every decision outsourced. They look fine, they look capable, but the moment something real happens, there is nothing there. No judgment, no adaptation, no ability. Why can knowledge be taught, but ability cannot? And once you truly understand this, it won't just change how you think about language. It will change how you think about learning itself. Here's the illusion most of us grow up with. If something is explained clearly enough, and you remember it, you now have that ability. That logic works for facts, for formulas, for information. But language is not information. Language is a capacity. You don't know a language. You don't understand language. You operate it. And no one in human history has ever acquired a language through explanation. Not one. Every human being mastered their first language without grammar lessons, without vocabulary lists, without translation. So if language ability depended on intelligence, effort, or teaching quality, we would see random results. Some succeed, some fail. But that's not what we see. We see near universal success with the first language and massive failure with second languages. That alone should disturb anyone who thinks seriously. People say some languages are just harder. People often say Chinese is the hardest language. That claim gives over 1 billion people a strange sense of pride they didn't earn. I find that almost funny, absurd. Languages don't fail people. Systems do. People also say some people aren't language types, or you just need better teaching. No, if that were true, newborn babies would fail too, but they don't, ever. Why? Because newborn babies don't learn language. They survive inside it. They have no interpretation, no explanations, no certainty. They guess constantly from tone, from expression, from repetition, from consequence. They guess wrong, they adjust. They guess again. This is not a strategy, it's biology. Guessing is not optional. It's the only way a language system activates. Now look at how we are taught second languages. Uncertainty is removed immediately. Everything explained, defined, clarified. Every time something is made clear, the condition for ability formation disappears. Certainty replaces guessing and kills capacity. Ability is not built after understanding. Ability is built inside uncertainty. Ability emerges from chaos, uncertainty, ambiguity, pressure, and the refusal to retreat. If confusion is eliminated, the system never turns on. This is why trying harder doesn't work. This is why people with enormous vocabularies still need support to understand real speech. This is why experts who can explain language perfectly sometimes still struggle to use it fluidly. They don't lack knowledge. They lack activation, because activation only happens when there is no substitute. This is also why immersion sometimes beats years of study. Immersion is not more advanced because it is better designed. True immersion is advanced because it is saturated with chaos, uncertainty, ambiguity, and pressure, and because there is no exit. If an immersive environment is filled with order, certainty, clarity, and reassurance, then no matter how long you stay in it, ability will not grow. When someone teaches you something, you are acquiring knowledge. Ability, by definition, can never be acquired through teaching. So, I'm calling for all language teaching to disappear. Or, more precisely, all non-literary, non-academic language teaching should disappear. If a person's goal is to function naturally in everyday communication, they must learn alone, or more accurately, they must guess alone. And this isn't just about language. It applies to music, to sports, to thinking, to entrepreneurship, to any domain where ability matters. How to guess is operationally simple. but conceptually complex at the foundational level. I will unpack that in later videos. In the next video, I won't tell you what to add. I will tell you what must be removed before guessing can even begin.